Who's first? Kraus is 5 minutes away. There's the guy right there. County Controller, Corey O'Connor.
Good seeing you, ma'am.
Ryan Herbenko for Controller O'Connor, who's on paternity leave.
Abaz Kamara.
Here.
Terry Klein. Rich Fitzgerald.
Steve Polarski.
Sheriff Kraus, my understanding, is on his way. Judge Lazara is in a jury trial. She'll be here as soon as she's done closing and charging the jury. Gail Moss.
Here.
Who else is missing? Oh, okay. Pat Katina.
It's pronounced Councilmember Bethany Hallam.
And Sheriff Kraus has just arrived. With that being said, I'd like to remind everyone about our rules. We'd ask that you treat everyone with the same respect that you would ask for in return. We'd ask that you not speak while other people are speaking. And during public comments, we'll have 3 minutes per person to speak.
Judge Halsey, point of order. I'd like to object to a legal representative sitting up here. Mr. Polarski for County Executive Fitzgerald is not allowed a designee, and Mr. Herbenko for County Controller O'Connor is not allowed a designee.
All right, thank you. With that being said, we'll now hear from the Community Corrections. Passages of recovery.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Morris. I'm with Passages to Recovery. This afternoon, we do not have any additional comments or information in regards to our report that we submitted. Do you have any questions for us? Yes. Hi.
Hi, yes. Did you have any medical emergencies in your facility for which anyone was transported outside of the facility in the past month?
Oh, let's see. Okay. I don't believe so. For the beginning of this month, no.
Since our last board meeting, so since May 18th.
Unfortunately, I believe so, but I didn't bring my report because I had already submitted it. But I think that we may have had one person that was taken out to the hospital, yes, and returned.
Okay, and do you remember what sort of incident it was for?
This person had issues with their asthma.
Okay.
And that's basically it. We haven't had any very serious issues in regards to medical. Just, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry that I didn't have my report with me.
No, that was helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Whenever you come up, if you could state your name and spell your last name for the record, that would be helpful. The Renewal Center. It's okay. The Renewal Center.
Good afternoon, Adam Zach, reporting for the Renewal Center. ZAK is the last name. We currently have 111 reentrants who are referred from the county, 84 county males, 12 in inpatient, and 10 county females in work release, 5 of them in inpatient program. In the past month, we didn't have any COVID cases amongst staff or reentrants. Our employment rate is currently 76% for our reentrants, with an average wage of $15. Last month, Mr. Hood reported about the Trade Institute of Pittsburgh presenting to our men and women about the Trade Institute and the program. We currently have 5 reentrants in the Trade Institute program, and they are close to graduating right now. So we've had a strong working relationship with the Trade Institute of Pittsburgh, and we're very appreciative of the services they provide for our clients. Also last month, Reverend Rodriguez Tate, he came into our facility again, and he presented to our men about the Colorful Backgrounds Expo. That's going to include an expungement clinic, job assistance, and other valuable programs for our men and women. And finally, there's going to be a guest speaker in the Colorful Backgrounds Expo that's going to be in Swissvale on Wednesday, June 28th. His name is Mark Rice, and he's a Transformational Justice Campaign Coordinator, and he's going to be giving a meeting with the community about de-incarceration, and that's going to be open up to our men and women, staff, and reentrants both.
Hi. Yeah, so I wanted to, first of all, thank you for sending this letter to us, letting us know that now you are going to follow the law and report deaths to the Jail Oversight Board. I really do appreciate that. I just have a couple of questions about the most recent death in the renewal facility. Have you all been told a cause of death, manner of death for the person who recently passed away there?
I'm going to have to defer that question to our CEO, and he could be here next month, or he could answer you through mail.
Sure, yeah, okay. And then my next question is, the other day, I forget what day it was, maybe Tuesday, we had a county council meeting, and as we were leaving there, I saw a bunch of emergency vehicles rushing to renewal, and somebody was being taken out on a stretcher. And so I was wondering why those sorts of incidents aren't being reported to us as well.
I'm not sure what incident you're referring to. That might have been from a rantrant or a staff member or someone from another jurisdiction. I was not aware of that incident.
You were not aware that someone was taken out on a stretcher, I think it was Tuesday? On Tuesday?
No.
Okay. Have there been any, to your knowledge, any medical emergencies that resulted in transportation to the hospital from your facility since the last meeting?
We had an incident, I believe it was on Sunday, when the paramedics had to be called for someone. Unfortunately, that individual escaped out the front doors before he could be taken to the hospital.
Okay. And then Tuesday, but you don't know about that one?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Electronic monitoring?
Good afternoon, Board. Steve Eswine, ESSWEIN for the Probation Office. For this reporting period, we had 699 individuals enrolled in the program. During that time, 107 completed successfully. We had 4 taken back for various violations. And Judge, 99 of those were on for pretrial electronic monitoring. So, any questions?
Any questions, Ms. Allen?
Yep.
Hi. Did you all have any deaths of folks who were on electronic monitoring since the last meeting?
Not that I know of, no.
All right, thank you so much. Do you wait, sorry, also, do you guys keep track of that? Like, I assume you get notified, right?
We do not. We get notified because we have to pick up the equipment, but it's
Right.
not, since they're out in the community, you know, at their residence, they're free to go to the hospital. If they need to go to the hospital, call 911.
Right, you have no like reporting mechanisms, I know with that, but do you, like, you would know if someone
Yeah, we
died?
would know,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, awesome, and there hasn't been one of those. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Last meeting, we tried to accommodate someone's schedule, and it required us to take the public comments out of order, so I apologize for any inconvenience that caused as it related to the vote regarding the jail liaison. But we will be discussing that matter again today, and we will be bringing that up for vote. So if you'd like to include any discussion regarding that position in your public comment, please feel free to do so. But public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. When you hear the buzzer, we ask that you stop speaking and step aside. With that being said, we'll first hear from William Mystic.
Good afternoon. William Mystic, M-I-S-T-I-C-K.
Thank you.
I retired 1 year ago on the day I turned 60 after 25 years working for Allegheny County, the last 18 of which was in the jail. And I gave a year to garner a new perspective on what's going on in the jail, and nothing has changed. In fact, I think it's gotten worse. It's obvious that Warden Harper is inept, obtuse, and arrogant. And if he talks that way to people here on this board for oversight, how do you think he treats us employees, some of which are here? The lack of leadership has caused the staffing to go downhill. There are some really good people that work in the jail, don't get me wrong. But having Orlando Harper as the chief is just awful. I never had to work. I worked in the Court of Common Pleas for years and learned about respect and dignity. And then when I went to the jail, some of the wardens we've had over the years were decent and good communicators. I think that the new broom that comes in, I hope, sweeps clean. We need a new perspective. You know, number one thing we should do is treat people with dignity. And if we're not being treated with dignity and respect, how can he, it's do as I say, not as I do. And Orlando doesn't know anything about the carrot. It's all the stick. Discipline, discipline, not, hey, you're doing a good job. Hey, you helped somebody. He asked me what I was doing in records, and I said, well, I'm trying to help get someone out of jail, either into treatment or something. He said, you're not here to help people, Mystic. Well, what the hell are we there for? Anybody can go to jail, anybody, and everybody's somebody. And it just makes me sick that he is still here. It's just horrendous. I have personal animosity towards him, and I don't want it to skew my speaking today, but we need a new perspective. I hope the new search committee finds somebody that has a monocle of compassion, some humanity. How, people are dying. It's just ridiculous. I see these names, and I knew a lot of these people and tried to help them, and it's like he doesn't have a care in the world. And again, the way he treats our staff and the people, I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I wanted to work till I was 65. I felt I made a difference. I helped officers get into drug and alcohol treatment. Our rates are very high, all the pressure. I did many jobs in the jail prior to Orlando coming, and when I got there, he cut me out of everything. We need to realize, my time up, we need to realize that the jail is one small cog in a giant criminal justice wheel, and it's not a fiefdom, and people don't deserve that.
Christine Goodwin.
Hello.
Hello.
Christine Goodwin, Goodwin.
Thank you.
David Onyshko, Onyshko.
Thank you.
We are former correctional officers, and we are here to serve lawful notification letters to Mr. Polarski and Blythe Toma. May we approach?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
What do they say?
I would like to yield the remainder of my time to Brian Englert. Thank you.
We don't yield time. Do we? Anyway, Beth Shangar.
Elizabeth Schongar, Schongar.
Thank you, ma'am.
Last month, I walked out of the JOB meeting angry at this board. No one on the board is taking responsibility for addressing the NCCHC mortality report recommendations. And now we have 2 deaths in intake that could probably have been prevented by the top priority recommended change in medical care. No one on the board seems to realize that Warden Harper can't address problems that require a change in the contract with AHN to provide more doctors' coverage. Only the county exec can renegotiate contracts. Does that let the jail oversight board off the hook? No. It means you need to develop a proposal for the county exec and publicly recommend it to him. Or even better, develop several proposals and publicly recommend that he adopt one of them. I don't want to hear Bethany hammer the warden with questions that criticize what he's doing when he can't do it all himself. Where's your proposals for the board to discuss? Where's your motion for the board to vote on? And Warden Harper, why haven't you said you're constrained by the AHN contract and what you can do? Why haven't you even provided the full unredacted report to the board? Judge Housey, last month I saw you concerned about what's happening in the jail for the first time when the public defenders raised the issue of conferences with people in the jail, which could delay cases in your court? Why no concern for people dying? Why haven't you set up a committee to create proposals addressing the top priorities of the NCCHC mortality report and bring them to the chief executive? Judge Housey, you and the board are in a position publicly to tell the county exec what his best options are and recommend that he act. I do not want to see 12 more people dead before the end of this year.
Thank you. David Maynard.
Hello, everyone. That's hard to follow. I just want to say about the last two speakers, first off, in terms of discipline, for someone who seems to love discipline so much, Warden, I'm addressing you now even though you've chosen not to regard me, simply swiveling your chair. At this point, if you love discipline so much, why do you bristle at being disciplined by this board? Why can't you take your lumps? And in terms of that last public comment, I just want to offer one little correction. The county executive is part of this board. The board shouldn't be giving a report to him. He should be here, and he should be working on it. And whoever his designated replacement is, it's your responsibility. He's given you that job, and you should be taking that on. But you've chosen to do nothing. The other thing is, I want to thank the warden here and his team for creating a report for the wait times on mental health specialists and all those kinds of things. 3 months ago, or even before that, long before that, the community, and through public comment, and this board, asked for that kind of report. They've been asking for this information for a long time, and I appreciate the position you guys are in as public administrators. You're doing more with less, so it's hard to do these kinds of things like your job. So I appreciate you guys putting that together, and I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it will be full of how you've noticed the deficiencies in the system and what you plan to do about it, and not just a report of the deficiencies. All right, thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Rachel Radke.
Rachel Radke, R-A-D-K-E.
Thank you.
2,684 citizens of Allegheny County. That's how many people the county has lost to opioid overdose as of the last numbers we have in a 4-year period from 2016 to 2020. 19% of those people spent time in the Allegheny County Jail in the year prior to their release. If we do the math, that's 510 people. And if we do some more math, that means that after their release from Allegheny County Jail, 10 people in Allegheny County die every month of opioid overdose after leaving the jail. And as much as I appreciate that we are finally getting updates about the jail's work to expand medications for opioid use disorder, as happy as I am that they seem to have finally set a goal to accomplish this, every month that it takes for this to happen, we lose another 10 people. I'm not okay with that. I'm not. I don't know why anyone is. Beyond that, every day that goes by that people are not receiving their medications for opioid use disorder, the county jail is likely in violation of Title II of the ADA and the Eighth Amendment. In many different cases, it has been found to be cruel and unusual punishment not to provide people with opioid use disorder with the proper medication, especially without getting them evaluated by a doctor first. But it's not just me that feels that way, because since 2021, the Department of Justice has now gone in to 3 different county jails to make sure they understand this. In 2021, they investigated the Cumberland County Jail because, the Cumberland County, New Jersey Jail for failing to provide MOUD to detainees with OUD. They found that because MOUD is the standard of care for treating OUD, categorically denying induction of MOUD is a failure to provide adequate medical care for a serious medical condition in violation of the Eighth Amendment. The DOJ ordered a number of remedial measures for the county jail to take immediately, including ensuring that medication-assisted treatment is immediately provided to prisoners, not in 3 months, not in 6 months, immediately. Thank you.
Ann McStay.
Ann McStay, McStay.
Thank you.
And ANN, not with an E. I appreciate that we have the opportunity to speak as public, members of the public. And I also appreciate that we've had some time with IWF task force members and other people that work with the county to have discussions about the needs of the jail. It's really been wonderful to have that happen. I'd like to speak to the issues of accountability and action to resolve problems. As we've heard from all these people, there are many things that have to be addressed, and they are incredibly serious. At every public JOB meeting, the agenda should list for us all old business still to be addressed, all unresolved issues with ongoing research and discussions involved, and unanswered inquiries from board members and the public. People are here to bring up serious issues, not frivolous items. This was done in the past when Judge Clark was the presiding judge and should be re-implemented immediately. The public has a right to know about all pending old or unfinished business and about unresolved problems and issues, to see the board address these items at each and every meeting, not forgetting them, not saying, well, we'll deal with that later. It's important to address them because they keep happening. Major areas of concern about the jail's operations that are regularly brought to the board's attention by the public include untimely deaths, inadequate physical and mental health care, unhealthy overtime utilization, which is very hard on the staff, inadequate intake processing, which has recently been the reason for an overdose death, poor food with low nutritional value, continued use of solitary confinement against the voters' wishes, and in violation of so many mores in this country about what is cruel and unusual punishment. It adds to people's mental stress. It's so terrible. How can we possibly allow that to be done in our names? Incarceration of juveniles in jail, again, morally and ethically and practically so wrong. To have young people put in those situations, strip searched, and sometimes the victims of sexual abuse. It's just so important. If the JOB continues holding monthly public meetings to hear reports on the jail from the warden and county staff, and we do appreciate more transparency that has gradually been appearing, but it does so without adequate meeting agendas that include this old and unfinished business, all of it, along with concerns raised in past public comments, it's incumbent on the citizens of Allegheny County to hold the board and the warden accountable for these items in a formal fashion. We're in this work of addressing incarceration issues together. Taxpayers, voters, and tax-funded county employees, including judges and everyone else, and the warden, and the agencies that we give money to. The warden staff have done a number of things well recently. New mattresses, so important just for people. Let's keep that up, and please bring this old business always to the front.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Bonavolia.
Sharon Bonavolia, Bonavoglia. Yet another death at the Allegheny County Jail, and it apparently happened during intake. When will it stop? When will procedures change so that those who are having a medical or mental health crisis will be immediately sent to a hospital facility most appropriate to the crisis? Especially knowing just how understaffed they are, the ACJ administration needs to be acutely focused on the medical condition of those under their care. Overworked COs should not be responsible for making medical life and death decisions. How many more deaths does this community have to suffer? I believe it is imperative that this jail oversight board do its utmost to truly listen to each other, to communicate with respect and a laser focus on immediate improvements that will make the most impact on the health of all people incarcerated in any jail in Allegheny County. I would ask you all as individuals, and I am looking very clearly at each of you as individuals, I would ask that each of you as individuals ask yourselves, without pointing a finger at anyone else on this board, these questions. What can I do differently? What is my responsibility to change in my own behavior and communication choices? Am I willing to stop attributing motives less noble than my own to all of the other members of this board and truly listen? We at Penn are grateful for the time members of the Jail Oversight Board Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund Subcommittee gave to us recently. And it was so helpful to the conversation to have a representative from County Controller's Office with us. One of our suggestions was that this board get together outside of this meeting and agree on policies and procedures for yourselves as a board. The Controller's Office actually offered to help in this endeavor. Please take that help. You need it. The people incarcerated throughout the county do not have the luxury of waiting for a new county administration, a new jail oversight board, or a new warden. They are dying now. Please come together and choose to focus on how to make the changes needed for the protection of all those under your care. And now, if you are physically able, please rise out of respect for the reading of the names of the dead. Richard Lenhart, and yes, anybody who would like to rise would be appropriate. Robert Blake, Cody Still, Daniel Pastoric, John Brady, Martin Buchek, Robert Harper, Vinkley Harris, Justin Brady, Paul Allen, Roger Millspaw, Paul Spisak, Gerald Thomas, Jerry Lee Ross, Jr., Victor Joseph Zelenek, Ronald Andrus, Anthony Tolada, William Spencer, and in the last month alone, James Washington, Damon Leroy Kays, Tim Menino. And I would like it pointed for the record that no one from administration rose.
Maria Guido.
My name is Maria Guido, G-U-I-D-O. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Pennsylvania. It's nice to see you, Warden Harper. I'm here because I want to talk about the children who are in the jail right now on Act 33 charges. I've been an expert witness in Act 33 hearings since 2015. I have significant concerns about the allegations, not only emotional abuse, but physical and sexual abuse. I also am concerned about their physiological needs not being met. You cannot expect these children to follow any type of order when you can't meet their physiological needs. They are sweating in the summer. They are freezing in the winter. You won't even give them enough food. They don't get regular contact with people. They don't even get positive engagement. How can you expect these children to be rehabilitated? Also, there are major issues with getting evaluators into the jail. I don't know how many times I've had to give my license over to the state of Pennsylvania to allow me in the jail, and I'm still not allowed in there. So I would like to know why, Warden Harper. Do I need to give you my license again? Because it's laminated in my wallet, okay? Because the longer you keep evaluators out to talk to those kids, the longer they sit on Act 33 charges. And the longer that they sit on Act 33 charges, the time is ticking, and you know that Judge Mariani will send them right to prison if they're 17. So you can continue to keep us out, but you're going to continue to get child line, and we're going to continue to come here, okay? How can you do this to children? To children! Warden! To children. How can you do this to them? I hope you're happy, because what you are doing to them is you are further traumatizing them. You need to Google developmental trauma. You are doing this to them. Thank you for hearing me.
Brad Korinsky.
Good afternoon, Board. Brad Korinsky, 5536 Beverly Place, Pittsburgh, private citizen, armed with my trusty dollar bank checkbook in an attempt to bring Allegheny County's most well-compensated lawbreaker to justice. And I do this not for a rhetorical flourish, though I hope it gets attention to get him here, but to encourage the members of the board who march to the tune of the county executive that he is a craven and a coward. He is no more entitled to your loyalty than he's entitled to my $10,000. As Albert Camus said, in this world, there is the pestilence and there are the victims. Never, never stand on the side of the pestilence. And Rich Fitzgerald, his administration, is part of the pestilence of illegality that has long troubled this institution, and it should stop. And that dovetails to my next point, which is, why is it that this board never hears from licensed professionals? There's obviously a medical problem in the jail. Why does this board never hear from a medical director, an MD? There are legal problems in the jail. There's a referendum that we all believe is not being followed. There are other statutory provisions that we all believe aren't being followed. Why is it that we never see the county solicitor? You know, when the county opens bid purchases to buy goods and such, there's always a county solicitor there to ensure that the law is followed. And if there are questions, the county solicitor stands up and says, well, in fact, this follows the law. Board of Elections meetings, we have solicitors. Pension board meetings, we have solicitors. County council meetings, we have solicitors. And why is that important? Because licensed professionals are obligated to tell the truth and exercise their best professional judgment and advice, or they are subject to sanction. So what this county has done, and it is intentional, make no mistake, that they've thrown the warden in the deep end of the pool and say, swim. Warden, does the county comply with the law? Sure it does. Does the county comply with the referendum? Absolutely. How's the medical staffing at the jail? Fine. But where's the MD? Where's the lawyer? This board should demand the county solicitor show up, give an opinion letter. I've seen them. Thank you. $10,000. Still up there.
Tanisha Long.
Tanisha Long, great to see y'all. I know you missed me. Last jail oversight board meeting, which should have happened last week, but you rescheduled it without any regard for the public, respect for our schedule, our time, or our feelings, because we accommodate you and you don't give a crap about us. At the last jail oversight board meeting, you kicked out Kim Andrews. Shortly after, Kim Andrews ended up incarcerated in the Allegheny County Jail. During her time there, she was tased 4 times in the Sallyport. She was also stripped naked by male COs. This is what happens to your jail, and these are the people you try to silence. During the lockdowns, lawyers were not able to get into the Allegheny County Jail, could not see their clients. I know this should be of particular interest to you, Judge Halsey, and you, Judge Lazara, and I hope you consider that this happened when you were seeing these people in front of you just days later and knowing that they did not have in-person legal contact with their legal representatives. So the people who are standing in front of you, who are standing in your courtrooms, did not get to properly speak to their own lawyers while you're making decisions that directly affect their fate, or the cases are going to get continued, lengthening their stay in the Allegheny County Jail. Judge Halsey, you proceed over IOJ hearings, which means you deal with youth and whether or not they should be incarcerated at the Allegheny County Jail. So these are kids that you are subjecting to longer harsh treatment inside the Allegheny County Jail, knowing that they didn't get to speak to a lawyer for 4 days straight. Judge Lazara, I know you're concerned with people in mental health court, and I know that you know the effect that solitary confinement has on people. So 4 days in solitary confinement, when it's been proven that after 72 hours, people begin to hallucinate. They begin to see things. They begin to decompensate. I would hope that this is of particular concern to you. The people in the Allegheny County Jail are not able to speak out because Warden Harper took their tablets when they're under that 4-day lockdown. The people in the Allegheny County Jail are not able to attend this jail oversight board meeting. The people at the Allegheny County Jail can now not speak to their lawyers when the warden decides that they're having a facility-wide lockdown. If you don't think that this is unconstitutional, inhumane, and unconscionable, you're the problem. And the next time you go to kick a formerly incarcerated person out of a jail oversight board meeting, just remember the conditions you're possibly subjecting them to when your overzealous, gun trigger happy, pushing people officers get in that hallway and put their hands on people like that one right there did at the last meeting. I have a video of it. So this is what you're responsible for. This is what you're in charge of. This is what you view as conscionable. And it's embarrassing. And you call yourself a man of the law, and you know that these are what these people are going through. And you sit up here and you play God with our time, with their lives, and you allow this man, who will never look at me, this man to run wild in that Allegheny County Jail. And at this point, he's reaching unconstitutional. And we know you've been sued once. It just happened a couple weeks ago, and we're not afraid to do it again. Thanks.
Thank you. Alex Phillips.
Hi, Alex Phillips, Phillips spelled Phillips. Hello, members of the board. My name is Alex, and I'm currently a student at the University of Pittsburgh. And today I'm here to talk to you guys about the absolutely horrendous conditions that exist inside the Allegheny County Jail. I've been working with the people incarcerated in Allegheny County Jail for just about 2 weeks now, and already my mind has been blown by the absolutely horrendous conditions that exist in there. I've heard stories of people getting beat up or sexually assaulted by correctional officers, lack of any meaningful mental health care, horrible food, and violence amongst those who are incarcerated. This is not even to mention the overdose death and the other 2 deaths which just happened last month, and the subsequent 4-day lockdown in which, as has been said already, prisoners were not able to see their lawyers. Tuesday, I saw a woman being carted out of the renewal center, and the people who were told to evacuate were told it was a fire drill. Can you not tell the truth? Can you guys really not tell the truth? Come on. We know this. It's like, I know our system isn't about rehabilitation, but are you serious? Most of the people in ACJ have not been convicted of a crime, and even if they were, those conditions are unacceptable. I have lived in Pittsburgh for the vast majority of my life, and I've never been more let down by the city than when I heard about the conditions in our jail. I had no clue. And it will never be the same after learning about what happens today. It's disgusting, and every single day that place remains open, people will only be further traumatized and recreate cycles of violence. Let's also mention the fact that the people in charge of this jail just don't care about the people outside of the jail as little as they care about the people inside, because we know they don't. We just passed a referendum recently banning the use of solitary, and it still happens. This is a spit in the face of every single citizen who had their voice heard to make sure that barbaric practice was stopped. I, for one, cannot wait until the day that every single man, woman, and child is let out of that jail and the building itself is demolished. Thank you for your time.
I apologize, but it looks like Shabaka Gray. I'm not sure. I can't read the last name.
That's Shabaka, Shabaka, Gay, Gay. And I'd like to yield my time to John Costanzo.
We don't really have a practice of yielding time, sir. So would you like to exercise your time? Would you like to exercise your time?
I can't hear you.
Come on up, Mr. Kinstowitz.
Point of order, Judge Halsey. Point of order, Judge Halsey. If I remember correctly, there is a policy that says that people can group their time together if they're speaking on behalf of a specific project or organization, and that they can pool that time.
Can you direct me to
It is a prior practice, and according to you, we go along with past practices.
Mr. Kinstowitz, please come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Does no one on the board remember that if somebody is speaking on behalf of an organization, they actually get 5 minutes?
No, you get 3 minutes per person.
I was asking the rest of the board, Judge Halsey.
All right, let's get started. Kenstowitz is my last name, Kenstowicz. As mentioned in my last public comment, I am providing you today the results of the job satisfaction survey for our correctional officers that was conducted from April 27th to May 23rd of this year. The Corrections Collective conducted the survey. 98 officers participated in the survey. Google Forms was used to protect the identity of the officers. The survey was completely anonymous. No physical incentives were used for their participation. The first part of the survey consisted of 12 close-ended statements. The following color pie charts reveal the results. Because of time, I cannot read all the percentages of each pie chart. The possible answers to the 12 statements are strongly agree, agree, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, and strongly agree, disagree. So Shabaka will present each pie chart as we go through them. So the first one is, I feel valued and respected as a CO at the Allegheny County Jail. 59.2% of the officers strongly disagree with that statement. 31.6% disagree with that statement. I am paid fairly for what I'm asked to do. 25.5% agree with that statement. 21.4% disagree with that statement. My job benefits meet my family needs. 40.8% agree. 27.6% disagree. Yeah, if you could keep those going, Shabaka. Concern for my physical safety has become more of a problem. 72.4% of the officers said strongly agree. 20.4% said agree. Yeah, each shift is staffed with enough COs. 95.9% strongly disagree with that statement, and 4.1% disagree with that statement. So that's all the officers. I am not asked to perform work duties outside of my job description. 45.9% strongly disagree with that statement. 30.6% disagree with that statement. I've had enough training to perform the work I'm expected to do. 42.9% disagree with that statement. 28.6% strongly disagree with that statement. I have flexibility with my schedule for personal or family needs. 64.3% strongly disagree with that statement. 14.3% disagree with that statement. Forced overtime has become disruptive to my family and me. 76.5% strongly agree with that statement. 16.3% agree with that statement. Yeah, I guess I'm going a little too fast, but I don't, in terms of my time, I want to get through this. Overtime has affected my physical and mental health. 76.5% agree with that statement. 13.3% also agree. Management understands the challenges I experience on my job. 67.3% strongly disagree with that statement. And 21.4% disagree. Management is receptive to my feedback and suggestions. 70.4% strongly disagree with that statement. 21.4% disagree. The following is a summary of the responses to the 12 close-ended statements of the survey. The question that received the strongest disapproval asked was whether there were enough officers on each shift. 100% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed that each shift is staffed with enough COs. Additionally, 92.7% agreed or strongly agreed that forced overtime has become disruptive to their families. These responses indicate that the vast majority of officers believe there is a serious staffing problem at the jail. So, okay, directly related to understaffing. 92.8% of respondents agreed or strongly agreed that concern for officers' physical safety has become more of a concern, and 89.8% agreed or strongly agreed that overtime has affected their physical and mental health. Based off the results of all four of these responses, it is clear the vast majority of officers believe they are working too many hours, their physical safety is more of a concern, and the additional overtime is affecting their families as well as their physical and mental health. Okay, who's next?
Sir, we do have a copy, and we were able to follow along with all the numbers, even if we couldn't see the slides. So, and it's a color copy, and everybody.
Yeah, I sent this to you yesterday.
And we all have it here, so just so you know.
Okay. But I wanted to do this for the public also.
Yeah.
So Okay, so for the next person that's up, even though my time is up, I think they're willing to continue to read this report. I mean, why can't I just read the rest of this report? You know what, read the report. Okay, thank you. All right. Another area of major concern is the relationship between the administration and COs. 88.7% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, management understands the challenges I experience on my job, and 91.8% disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, management is receptive to my feedback and suggestions. Communication would then appear to be top-down with limited opportunities for COs to provide feedback, suggestions, or talk with administration about the struggles they experience on their job. Additionally, 90.8% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, I feel valued and respected as a CO at the Allegheny County Jail. This response is not surprising, given the responses pertain to the relationship between the COs and the administration. An important question is, how much is the response to this question based on how the COs feel they are perceived by the public? How much does the public truly understand and value the plight and the day-to-day experiences of the CO? Concern over the disconnect between the officers and administration was also raised in the 2022 ACJ mortality report conducted by the NCCHC. Quote, and I quote, information pertaining to important operational issues, staff safety, inmate safety, or the safety and security of the facility itself must be communicated. Staff, including line supervisors, indicated they don't hear information on critical incidents, specifically deaths and suicides, or follow-up or corrective information. Previous studies of staff retention for correctional officers have found that the control over scheduling and the ability to schedule off for personal and family needs are the most important factors for retention of correctional officers. In this present study, lack of flexibility was raised as a serious concern by respondents. 78.6% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, I have flexibility with my schedule for personal or family needs. This evident lack of flexibility is reflected in responses to questions regarding forced overtime and the impact it has on family and physical and mental health. Two statements raised concerns that officers are required to perform tasks beyond their scope of training. 76.3% of respondents disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, I am not asked to perform duties outside my job description. And 72.2% disagreed or strongly disagreed with the statement, I've had enough training to perform the work I'm expected to do. All of these factors can have a significant effect on morale and safety. The next part of the survey asks this open-ended question. What are your recommendations that would reinforce your decision to continue to work at the ACJ? There were 74 responses to this question. Some responses mirror those indicated in the close-ended statement, but provide more insight into what officers are experiencing. The most repeated responses fell into 6 main categories. Call for changes in the leadership and administration, 24 responses. Call for improved support and communication with correctional officers, 21 responses. Call to hire more correctional officers, 17 responses. Call for revision to overtime system, 17 responses. Call for higher pay or better benefits, 13 responses. Call for increased concern for officer safety, 8 responses. Included below are direct quotes provided by the respondents correlating with each of the above categories. Call for revision to the overtime system. Call to hire more officers. Many of the responses tied together problems with staff retention and forced overtime. Forced overtime and the punitive actions taken by administration relating to forced overtime is on the minds of many officers. Now, when officers use the word force in this quote, they're actually referring to forced overtime. So I quote, "Stop firing new officers that are still on probation for making one minor mistake or for refusing a force because they were forced numerous times in a row or when they are physically ill and provide medical documentation." Quote.
Mr. Kinsler, is there any way we could summarize? I mean, you've gone over.
I will ask fewer questions if you let him finish. I will.
What's that? All right. I'll tell you what, why don't I do this, okay? Why don't I, next meeting, because I want to read these quotes from the correctional officers. I think they're really significant, and they tell a story of what they're experiencing, okay? Okay, so what I've done is I've got a analysis of the data and conclusion. This will be about 3 minutes. Okay, so why don't I do that, and then I go back to this next month.
Meaning do both things next month?
No. Well, I mean, can you give me a little more time, or what's that?
There are 7 people who were donating their time to them.
Yeah, we have 7 people. What's that?
We really don't donate our time.
Judge Halsey, that's in Robert's rules. Robert's rules allows you to yield.
Well, all these people wanted to donate their time. That's why they signed me up.
Can you summarize, because we need to get back to our meeting. We're giving another 2 minutes.
Okay.
Later, John, so it all gets read today. It'll get read.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, why don't we just do that? Okay. All right. So let's go, and do you mind if I stand right next to the person?
Sister Barbara Finch.
Okay. Barbara, can you come up here? Okay, this is pretty easy. So all you have to do is start with the quote and then read these quotations, okay? And then you go to this next one and continue to read. And start with quote for each of these.
Okay.
Okay?
Which one?
So I left off here, so start with this one.
This one, okay. It's Sister Barbara Finch, F-I-N-C-H, and I'm going to continue this report.
Thank you.
Limit the amount of forced overtime in a week to no more than 2 or 3 times in a week. Do not discipline officers that are forced 3 times in a week for trivial things that may be caused by fatigue. We have no administrators who have worked such a workload as is now asked of the officers. Quote, there should be a number in place for the amount of forces per week for the new contract. For example, officers should be mandate maximum 2 times per week. Officers should not be forced for a reasonable amount of time per week. Per the jail, a reasonable amount of forces is 5 days per week, which interferes into off days. Quote, working on the forcing to spend time with my family. Quote, hire more officers so people aren't forced every day. Again, in response to forced overtime, some officers are asking the administration to share in the added workload. Quote, have the sergeants or captains oversee suboxone pass instead of leaving it to the officers to oversee themselves as the staff leaves the unit. Quote, give the sergeants more responsibility and have them help the officers on the units rather than continuously adding more and more duties to the officers' daily responsibilities. Some officers reported frustration over the use of FMLA and called for even distribution of overtime. Quote, get everyone to do their fair share. The force list makes 0 sense, and this job is not sustainable without being forced to go get FMLA. Maybe 12-hour shifts is the answer. At least the overtime is spread out evenly. Quote, the county needs to make real efforts to the curb abuse of the Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA,
with 80% of the officers having FMLA, the majority of whom obtained it so that they can refuse mandated overtime. Unsustainable. Quote, evening out the OT, across all 3 shifts. And then there's a call for improved support and communication with correctional officers. Officers made references to the administration not understanding the challenges officers experience on their job. Quote, more realistic leadership, people who see the things that we see every day and understand the type of people we oversee and the challenges that come with it. Quote, new leadership and someone with real experience, some that works with the officer instead of ruling with fear and discipline. Punitive measures to induce compliance was mentioned in several responses. Quote, discussing mistakes and errors with officers and showing us how to fix them rather than running us up only to step us up to termination. Quote, revamp the administration so that officers can actually be respected and not have to fear for our jobs every single day. Quote, better administration that doesn't view their employees as the problem. Section 3 is open-ended question, summary, and discussion. Some responses concern the administration micromanaging. Quote, if they stop next person?
Yeah, who's the next person up?
Diana Hall, I believe that's it.
Diana?
If you start with that one.
Yeah, and just try to lead each one.
Yeah. Say your name and spell your last name.
Diana Hull, last name Hull. Quote, if they stop micromanaging every little thing without knowing why we do what we do, I feel I'm not trusted as an adult who didn't get arrested, yet I get treated worse than the jail residents. Quote, allow us to do our job and not micromanage us. Quote, if management would change and allow us to do our jobs. Some responses concerned with the need for upward communication. Quote, listening to the officers' opinions and ideas on how to manage the jail and allowing us to run our units without micromanaging our every move and decisions. Quote, getting rid of the administration and fake deputies that make decisions without consulting the officers who work firsthand with the daily operations of the facility. Quote, they create safety concerns when they warehouse inmates and close pods, cutting jobs. There is no communication in the jail with all levels of staff, creating uncertainty and creating severe safety problems. Call for increased concern for officer safety. As reflected in the quote above, safety has become a concern for many officers. A few responses indicate the impression that safety of the incarcerated individuals is prioritized over officer safety. Quote, additional staffing for safety with more concern for officer safety. Quote, get rid of the current administration, wardens, deputy wardens, and majors. They have done nothing but make the job harder and more dangerous for officers and inmates. Quote, prioritizing safety and security for officers and inmates. Section 3, open-ended questions, summary, and discussion. Call for changes in the leadership and administration. Overall, 24 responses, including a call for a change in leadership and the administration, and a majority of these responses called for termination. Quote, better leadership from our superiors. If they don't build morale and show leadership, how can you expect your employees to be better? Quote, better administration that doesn't view their employees as the problem. Quote, complete change of staff from majors up the ranks to warden. In addition to the main categories above, some officers have made other recommendations, several related to training. Quote, increase in-person training, not through power DMS. Quote, give officers more tools for discipline. Quote, defensive training tactics more often. And others provided general recommendations. Quote, pay double time to stay for a force. Quote, provide more nutritious food in the dining hall, especially when we are forced and stuck for 16 hours. Quote, start using the padded cells when the situation warrants it. Quote, remove the CRU officers from the regular bids so officers who aren't on the team can bid on those jobs. Quote, allow inmates to charge their tablets because they only work for 7 hours when they have access to them for 12.5 hours and have to share them for 12.5 hours with their cellie. Quote, better health care for retirees, raised to at least account for rising inflation and cost of living. Quote, better food in the officers' dining room, and free parking would be a nice plus too.
Okay, who's next?
Fran McDowell.
Say, Fran, if you could just read this right here and then
Okay.
go to the question.
And then go to the question. Fran McDowell, McDowell. The following open-ended question was asked of the officers. For your peers that terminated employment, why do you think they left? There were 81 responses to this question. Most responses fell into the 5 following categories. Number 1, left because of forced overtime, included 35 responses. Number 2, left because of management/micromanagement, included 26 responses. Number 3, feeling undervalued or unsupported by leadership, included in 26 responses. Number 4, left due to lack of work-life balance, included in 14 responses. Number 5, safety concerns, included in 9 responses. Mentions of forced overtime or lack of work-life balance were included in 45 distinct responses. Mentions of management, micromanagement, and feeling undervalued or unsupported were included in 47 distinct responses. Safety concerns were linked to forced overtime in 4 of the responses. Quote, the overtime, all of them have said the same thing. Nobody wants to work 80 hours a week in a dangerous work environment. Quote, my peers left because of the following: forced into off days, no time to spend with families, sleep deprived. We have to work dangerous pods on overtime hours. Health issues such as weight loss due to poor nutrition due to the lack of time spent at home to eat proper meals per day. Quote, forced overtime, unsafe working environment. Quote, understaffing and safety concerns. Several responses focused on the administration being disconnected from the officers, lacking awareness of the work challenges of the officers. Quote, forced overtime, short staff, management has no idea what it's like to run a pod and what's expected of you. Quote, the county doesn't care about them, their families, or their needs. Administration is out of touch. Policy is being made by civilians who don't do their jobs, making the entire facility more dangerous. Quote, the expectation is that we don't have lives outside of our work. Quote, we are not appreciated and consistently put under massive stress, not just the inmates, but warden and people up the street who do not do our job. Section 2, open-ended questions, summary and discussion. Response.
Who's next?
John Bolanos. Apologize if that's mispronunciation of your last name.
John Bolanos, B as in boy, O-L-A-N-O-S.
Yeah, you can start right here.
Response is also focused on the punitive actions being taken by administration in spite of officers working very excessive forced overtime. Quote, "They knew that administration wouldn't support us and actively try to hound us. My example is a team. If people hired to watch cameras all day to write us up, the camera should be there to support us, not solely to punish us." Quote, "Too much overtime. Administration targeting the wrong things for disciplinary action." Quote, "They left due to the amount of forced overtime and the fact that administration seeks to target officers for anything." Quote, "Forced overtime, bad and hostile management, constant threats of termination. Some of the officers talked about the stress put on families and on the officer when an officer has to work so much forced overtime." Quote, "Unfair policies that not only put strain on themselves, but their personal life as well." Quote, "Ruined their family life, caused undue stress, overtime caused health issues, and they were treated like they are worthless." Quote, "Extreme stress while being underappreciated and forced every day. Some had to decide between having a family and providing for their family." Quote, "Mandated overtime, stress, missing their families."
Now, this is,
So we're going to do the discussions analysis next meeting, like you said?
well, I think, we still have one more person, don't we?
Don't count this time against Don't Go On.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, hold on a second. Just wondering if I want this one too. Okay, here's, no, there's that one. I tell you, we might have to do it that way. Yeah, I know I had this. Oh, yeah, I had the summary.
Right here.
Okay.
This is where you are.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the summary. Okay.
From the results of the survey, the overwhelming concern of the correctional officers is forced overtime. Though increasing pay and benefits are mentioned, the dominant concern is how forced overtime is disrupting an officer's family life, the officer's physical and mental health, and the officer's sense of safety. These officers working forced overtime should receive the utmost support to succeed. A laser beam of support from administration, the union, the jail oversight board, and the public should be provided to these officers. These officers are making huge sacrifices. These officers should be given a maximum opportunity to develop a schedule that will complement the care they need to give to their families and their own physical and mental health. As one officer recommended, these officers should be paid double time, be provided free parking, and a stake in between their shifts because of the sacrifices they are making. COs recognize that the officers most vulnerable to terminating their job are the officers who are relatively new, who are assigned to work many hours of forced overtime, and who work on the most difficult pods where safety becomes more of a risk. This needs to change, in which a more equitable system is devised to make some of the weight off the backs of the officers recently hired. This will improve retention. Coupled with this concern of forced overtime is how management is disciplining officers who work these long hours and the micromanaging officers are experiencing. Officers say a punitive model of intimidation and a threat to losing one's job is used often to achieve compliance. Using fear and intimidation tactics is an archaic way of achieving motivation in the workplace, especially when officers are working such long hours. The fear tactics and micromanagement wreak havoc concerning the officers' morale. A supportive model needs to be implemented in which these officers need to be seen as professionals who can grow in their profession if given the opportunity. All of the top-down communication needs to stop. What NCCHC found in administration not providing corrective information to line staff also needs to stop.
I think we're done. Okay. Are we done?
Keep going. All right, final vote.
Oh, yeah, we got one more. I think we're going to finish, okay? You just have this to read. Oh, cool.
Art Bonavolia, B-O-N-A-V-O-G-L-I-A. Okay. One officer recommended the use of video cameras in many instances. Thanks, Leah. She knows I can't see. In many instances should be seen as a learning tool in which ideas of training and support are provided instead of the cameras always being used as evidence to discipline or fire people. For officers to grow in their profession and seek advancement, training is a key, and their needs can be communicated in a bottom-up relationship with administration instead of the communications always being top-down. The two pie graphs concerning the officer's relationship with administration identify this communication between the officers and administration as a significant problem. The responses in the survey to the statement, this is a quote, "I feel valued and respected as a CO at the Allegheny County Jail," received over a 90% negative response to that statement. Overwhelmingly, officers do not feel valued or respected, which significantly affects their morale and can affect their job performance. The tremendous value the officers can bring to the jail must be articulated. An officer who actively engages with residents has learned effective ways to intervene in a crisis and who exhibits professionalism and an image of an officer and public needs to become aware of. The jail cannot function without security. The more officers who terminate employment at the Allegheny County Jail, the more time residents will be in their cells. The lower the officers' morale and the increased tiredness based on working many long hours, the less effective officers will be in providing effective interventions and protecting the lives of the residents and staff at the jail. A purpose of this survey is to provide a blueprint of what officers at the jail are thinking and saying. The current county administration, current warden, and JOB, as well as the future county administration and warden, need to use the results of this survey as a framework to institute changes in development and develop an effective working relationship with the officers. Time can no longer be wasted. Good.
Thank you, sir. Marion. Thank you, sir. I apologize for the last name, but it looks like Marianne Nove.
She left.
She left? All right, Brian Englert.
Hi, my name is Brian Englert, 710 Corbin Street, West Mifflin. I am current president of the Allegheny County Correctional Officers Union. I would just like to thank John and wrap up what he said. As you've heard, morale, training, and leadership at that jail is horrible. The scores tell the story of what officers have dealt with over the last few years, and this is what led to the overwhelming vote of no confidence last year in Warden Harper. Even more troubling is the job retention numbers. In 2020, we had 25 new officers hired. 12 of them were gone in less than a year. That's a 48% loss. 2021, 49 new officers hired, 19 gone in a year, 39% loss. 2022, 43 new officers hired, 20 gone in a year, a 47% loss. So while we continue to see an increase in sergeant staffing of 25% and captains at 40%, I continue to lose officers at a rate of almost 40% a year. That's worse than retail. Even with the residency restriction lifted, the county can't seem to find employees. I mean, common sense would tell you we are tied for the 7th highest average wage of correction officers in the state. So go to the counties like Washington, Butler, Lawrence, Westmoreland, and put up a billboard saying now hiring, no residency requirements. Have job fairs there. They just simply don't care to do the right or smart things to bring officers in that jail and train them correctly. It's sad that I have received 0 responses from the health department on 2 pressing items. First, I requested air quality monitors for 2 units that are heavily inundated with K2 smoke. My officers are forced to sit on these units and breathe it for up to 16 hours a day, and I would like to know the hazardous chemicals that we're breathing. Breathe Pittsburgh offered to provide air quality monitors, but it would need the permission of the warden and the health department. No answer. I also submitted a report and a complaint to the health department about rodents in the ceiling of our cafeteria. The other night while on overtime, I was eating and part of the ceiling came in and out popped a rat looking at me. I mean, this would be unacceptable in any county building, in any restaurant, in any hospital, in any institutional establishment. Yeah, now we have rats in the ceiling where we eat. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and the health department continues to ignore it. The acting director, Dowd, I believe his name, I don't even know if his email works. Can IT check on that? And lastly, I'm kind of shocked about the renewal numbers because I work a lot of overtime, and I see ambulances in front of that building almost every day. I have inmates that escape from renewal and request to come back on my unit because they're walking in on a guy overdosing, and they're trying to stay away from drugs, and they feel like they have to escape. And I said, how frequent does this occur? They say quite often, but yet it's never reported at these meetings. And lastly, I know we're going to have a change in leadership. I'm excited for that. And I know, Steve, this might be the end of your run. And if you're looking for a job, I wanted to bring you a gift. I brought you a uniform shirt. We need officers, and I'll get you 80 hours a week. You'll make some money, and we'll give you some crappy training, but I want to give it to you. It might not fit. You might have to wait a year to get a new one. I couldn't get your name put on it. There was a 4-month waiting period to have it stitched, but I want to give you this in case you're looking for work. And then you could actually see what I do every day in the jail that you ran into the ground.
Marion Damick. Mrs. Damick. I love this lady.
I always come after the best talk. Okay. Get down. Get down. There. Boom. I always come after the best talk and the most important thing, because actually I wanted to refer to what happened last month. It was last month. Yeah, we had something very unusual. I don't know if the group knows how unusual that was. 3 attorneys came here to complain about getting in to see their client. One, by the way, 3 of them, I have a feeling maybe because they were public defenders instead of the regular paid attorneys. I hope that wasn't the reason, but whatever the reason was, it's not, there is nothing that you can do or should do to keep an attorney from an hour or more. They kept me. I'm not an attorney. I didn't mind. I talked to the other people there or whatever. But I had an officer take me to the prisoner. The attorneys have officers. If you were low on service. The reason that reflects on what happened last time. If you're low on employment, you don't have the people to take the attorneys to their clients. That is such a, I would say, crime. That is so illegal that I could scream. I can't. So one thing leads to another that is wrong. Get rid of the first thing, of the base of what kept that wrong. You'll be much better. I hope to see you next month, and I hope that we get some better news.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Due to a number of concerns that were expressed in the meeting, we checked the system for giving public comments, and IT did determine that there was a breakdown with the system, so I apologize for the inconvenience that may have caused. It's my understanding that that has been rectified. Public comments are now being submitted online. Due to the time that we spent with public comments, I am not reading the public comments. They are listed, posted on the website for your review. With that being said, we'll now have a review of the meetings from the previous minutes from the meeting from last month, from the May meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Mama, can't you see? Mama, can't you see what the system's done to me? What the system's done to me? Ain't no use looking down. Ain't no use looking down. Ain't no justice.
I'm calling the meeting.
Ain't no justice on the ground.
Make a motion? I think so. There's been a motion to adjourn. Anyone want to second that motion? Anyone want to second the motion?
Mama, can't you see? Mama, can't you see what the system's done to me? What the system's done to me?
Point of order, Judge Halsey, cannot adjourn the meeting without a second. You don't have a choice. No one seconded that, I'm positive. Let him leave, we can, I'll run the meeting. Hey, I will run the meeting. I will run it.
Can't wait. 8 years. Mama, can't you see?
All right, since Judge Halsey has left, maybe we can have a respectful meeting now. I would run it if no one else would like to run it. There was no adjournment, Ms. Moss. You don't need to be here. We have a quorum without you. You may leave. Okay. One more thing to add to the lawsuit.
Mama, can't you see? Mama, can't you see what the system's done to me? What the system's done to me? Ain't no use in looking down. Ain't no use in looking down. Ain't no justice on the ground. Ain't no justice on the ground. Mama, can't you see? Mama, can't you see what the system's done to me? What the system's done to me? Ain't no use in looking down. Ain't no use in looking down. Ain't no time.
Does anybody know where the jail administration went? Did they leave the building? What? I did not think, yeah.
What the system's done to me? What the system's done to me? Ain't no use in looking down. Looking down. Ain't no justice on the ground. Ain't no justice on the ground.
I would just note for the record that we now don't have a quorum, and so we can't get any business accomplished today.
Why is 5 of 9 not?
We actually had
Oh, we have
things to
4.
do that we could have gotten done that might have improved the jail.
I mean, if we're being for real, they sit up here and they lie to us. They don't answer our questions. He adjourned the meeting without a second. He cannot do that.
Now, Bethany, don't have a quorum, we can't do business. I would have liked to have asked the warden some questions
about why they can't come in.
Then talk to your friends who walked out of the meeting and left us without a quorum. That wasn't me. We stayed here.
Bethany, I'm not saying it was you. I'm saying it's frustrating because there were things that could have been done.
And we could have got them done if Judge Housey would not have left. We could have got them done if you didn't leave the meeting.
That's frustrating to me, okay? That's frustrating. Suddenly she wants to speak up. You sat there and didn't say anything. I'm sorry, Bethany. I apologize.
It's not your fault. You're not the one who walked out of the meeting.
I know.